the naming committee for the Metro Parks Board, and I'd like to call to order the naming committee for October 5th. First, we'll begin with the roll call of the commissioners present. So when I call your name, please let me know that you're here. And I'm going to first begin with asking everybody to mute. I think Director Odom, that might be you. Okay, so let's see. Commissioner Anderson?
Present.
Commissioner Gentry? Commissioner Haynes?
Present.
Commissioner Hughes?
Present.
Commissioner Johnston? And Commissioner Steele?
Right.
Okay, and the first order of business is for us to vote on the record that the COVID-19 pandemic requires us to hold a telephonic meeting as permitted under the Governor's Executive Order number 16, and that contrary rules are suspended. Is there a motion? Commissioner Anderson.
Make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Haynes.
Second.
Okay, that's a proper motion and a second. I'll take a vote. Let's see, Commissioner Anderson.
Approve.
Commissioner Gentry, not here, sorry. Commissioner Haynes.
Approved.
Commissioner Hughes.
Approved.
Commissioner Steele.
Approved.
Okay, the motion carries. And I just want to add a note for those listening that the Parks Board members are calling in remotely. We are in separate places, and when I ask people to raise their hands, that's an action occurring through the software. The items on the meeting agenda constitute essential business of this body, and meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Today, we have on the agenda item 08-20-03, the Honorable Sharon W. Hurt, member of Council at Large, requests the board to rename Hadley Park to Freedom Riders Park, Nashville Freedom Rider Park. I'm sorry. And for those of you who are just joining us on this issue, we did have Councilmember Hurt on in August was when this came to the board, and she at that point got a chance to speak to us about this and why she had brought this item to our agenda. And then last month in the September meeting, the naming committee met, and the commissioners that were present at that meeting were Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner Johnston, Commissioner Haynes, and Commissioner Steele and myself. And at that point, we did cover a lot of topics. And since we don't hold minutes or don't have minutes from those, I think it might just be helpful to have a reminder of some of the things that we hit on last month. The role that the state plays in this matter with the Tennessee Heritage Protection Act. We discussed if there were any new parks that were coming up on the horizon that might have other naming opportunities. We discussed whether or not delaying this discussion for an in-person meeting was worth considering. We discussed the difference between suspending the naming policy and amending it. And it was noted by Honorable Hurt why this particular park was selected to honor the Nashville Freedom Riders. We discussed ways that the public can weigh in during COVID, this period of the COVID pandemic. And did we have the steps in the right order? Meaning, did we need to get public comments after the rule had been suspended? And then the last point that was brought up last month was whether or not the library at the Hadley Park Library would be affected by the name change. And it was clarified at that point that that's not under our purview, and so therefore not affected. We deferred for more public comment, and at this point, I'll just open up the discussion, or if anybody has questions or discussions, open it up for anybody to bring anything up. I see Commissioner Steele.
Good morning. There is currently a policy on the books that states that we cannot rename parks. And until that policy is suspended, I don't see that we can move forward. So I wanted to make a motion that we begin the conversation by suspending that policy that allows us to rename the park. And so I'm making a motion to suspend the policy. And I believe, I don't know the policy number, 3000.1, naming of parks, in an effort to move the conversation.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I see some hands raised. I see Commissioner Hughes.
Yes, thank you. And I am sorry that I was not here for the discussion in September. Susanna, thank you for recapping it. And it's sort of, this is sort of to Commissioner Steele's point. I also noticed that that an individual cannot ask that the name of a park in number 3, section H. So would we need to suspend? Let's see, where is it? It's section H under, criteria under 4, number 4. It says nominations will not be accepted from any individual person, including elected officials. The only exception is when a significant financial contribution is made. And if I'm reading that correctly, we would probably need to look at that rule as well.
Let's see, I would like to ask our Metro Legal to comment on that.
That is probably an appropriate course of action, and I would remind the board that you're voting on, or you could be ultimately voting on my recommendation to the full board. That the committee doesn't have the authority to suspend the rule, but to make a recommendation that the full board do so. It does seem as if suspension of the entire rule or all the boards would be appropriate.
Yeah, the Zoom meeting. All right. Excuse me. Yes, this is Councilwoman Sharon Hurt. The Minority Caucus submitted a letter to Director Odom on behalf of this request. Once I read that an individual could not make the recommendation, a letter was sent from the Metro Council's office to Director Odom on behalf of the Minority Caucus requesting the name change.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so.
Well, then would we need to change, excuse me, would we need to then change the motion of 20-03 where it says that this is coming from Councilwoman Hurt? Would it, we want to change that to
One other thing, I do serve as chair of the Minority Caucus, so I don't know if that may have been misconstrued, but I do serve as chair of the Minority Caucus.
So I guess I'm just looking to Tom, Metro Legal, would that need to be amended in the motion?
If it is on behalf of the Minority Caucus, if the Minority Caucus is the requesting entity, then that part of the rule does not need to be suspended.
But maybe the motion, the wording of the motion should be adjusted.
Right. I think it needs to be adjusted because the letter that's in our package doesn't make this request on behalf of the minority caucus, and it doesn't say that. I mean, I'm fine with suspending it, but I just want to make sure that we can.
Okay. Commissioner Steele, I see your hand was up. Did you want to make a comment?
I can. My motion is to suspend the policy number 3000.1 naming of parks, not the section, since we have the clarification from our attorney, but to suspend the rules 3000.1, the naming of parks, so that we can move this to full board as directed by Attorney Cross.
Okay. All right. So then, in other words, your motion is to suspend the entire rules.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
So when you say entire rules, and I guess I'm asking for clarification, that includes the part that Commissioner Hughes noted for Section 4. And I think that's what you're saying that it does.
Yes.
I think that, Commissioner Steele, I think it's 3000.1 and then number 4 on the criteria, and then number L, the one that you're asking to be suspended. No park once named may be changed. Is that what you're asking to be suspended?
Yes, but then to your question, you were saying that because the on the agenda it comes from the Honorable Sharon Hurt and not the minority caucus. You're asking. I understand. Yeah, I would like to amend my motion to include suspending that rule as well. That the naming of parks for 3001 to include where the proposal came from. Do we need to do that together? That's what I would like to happen.
Okay.
Well, I think it's two separate things, actually. One is we reflect that the minority caucus is requesting this name change, and then we would have to suspend the rule there, and we would just change let the accuracy of Councilwoman Hurt's letter and request show that it's coming from a group and not an individual. Then we wouldn't have to suspend that. I think it's two separate things.
Excuse me.
So that would be awesome.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, Commissioner Scott Barnes, if I could assist and just offer a recommendation based on what I'm hearing, and of course yield to the naming committee. If it is your desire to suspend the policy, just suspend the entire policy rather than sections of the policy. Just if that's what you're trying to do, just suspend the entire policy and you won't have to go section by section, if that's your desire.
Okay, thank you.
That is my motion.
Okay, so we have a motion, and it looks like Commissioner, do we have a second? Commissioner Hughes?
No.
Okay, I saw a hand raised. Okay, so we have a motion on the table, and we can't get to discussion until we get a second. Is that correct? We need a second in order to get discussion.
You need a second, yes.
Okay. So if we don't have a second, maybe I need to come back for comments prior to this motion. Commissioner Hughes?
Yes, thank you. So I'm curious about two things. Have we ever done this before? Has there ever been a park that has been renamed? And then my second concern is suspending the whole naming policy seems like there's just one rule that needs to be changed. That needs to be suspended. It seems like suspending the whole naming policy is overdoing it. So I just have some concerns about our process and would love some discussion on that.
Okay. Director Odom, did you want to comment?
I was just going to say to Ms. Hughes's comment, if you do not, if it is your desire to not suspend the entire policy and there are parts of it that you want to suspend, someone could make that motion. But given where we are now, with no second to the motion made by Dr. Steele, the motion fails.
Okay. You could ask the question about the history of name changes within parks.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. We have not had any name changes. We had a name correction recently, as you all may recall, Frederick Douglass Park. The name was corrected, and that's been about it.
The Honorable Sharon Hurt.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Madam Director, but in 1971, the Cane Ridge Park was created, and in 1982, it was named, the name was changed to Cecil Ray Crawford Park in 1982. So it has been done, and I know that just last year, Jefferson Street Pocket Park was renamed to Cassie Gardner Park. I know that it was not an official name as the Jefferson Street Pocket Park, but originally through all of the council and all of the formal work that was done in order to have the park established, it was named the Jefferson Street Pocket Park, and last year we did name it the Cassie Gardner Park, and it went actually before this, not the name, maybe not the naming committee, but I know I spoke on behalf of that at the Parks Board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I'd just like to make another comment about the Cecil Ray Park. That is correct, in Cane Ridge. So thank you, Councilmember Hurt, for bringing that one to our attention. In regard to Jefferson Street Park, you're absolutely correct. Again, Councilmember Hurt, the official name of that park was not Jefferson Street Park, so it wasn't renamed. It was officially named after Mr. Gardner. So this policy was not applicable in that case.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Anderson.
It's obvious that we're not ready to make a serious decision like this as a group. I would ask, and I don't know if it's appropriate for me to make a motion now, but I'd like to make a motion that we table this for 4 months and let's all think about it, because it's a very big decision and it's very difficult to do over video like this, and it's also a huge decision, and I just sense that we're not ready as a group to make such a big decision. And I think if we wait 4 months and just take a deep breath and think about it, it would be a better thing for us. So I would like to make that motion.
Okay, thank you for that motion. I see some more hands raised, and let's see, I'm wondering if, I think the hands got raised before that motion was offered. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. So I have a motion and a second to delay this discussion for 4 months. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Steele.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? I recognize the need to take a breath and to get some of these questions answered. I do wonder about why 4 months. We can get answers to our questions in a pretty relatively quicker time period. I want to say that. Secondly, we have received from the public on both sides of this issue input into the name change. I would say probably more for the name change. And while I recognize that we have policy and procedure around that, suspending our rules allows us to have the conversation. It allows us to at least put that before the community as well, the community that uses the park and the history that is there. And so to delay it for 4 months, I'm not sure where that gets us. I'm not sure about why the timeline of 4 months. But if there's a delay, could we bring that back? I recognize where we're on, I'm sorry, limit that to another 30 days. But the suspension of the rules allows us to move to our next step, which is to have the conversation and to put that forward possibly to our community, recognizing the history in this place. So I can vote it down, but that's my.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Haynes?
One of the reasons I'd like to delay it for a lengthy period of time, and I think 4 months is fine, and I think this decision is of such magnitude, we need to meet in person. We need to invite the public to come speak on both sides. This is a very big decision. I'd also like to understand the history, if we can, from staff and legal counsel on the Cane Ridge name change from 40 years ago. So I do think 4 months, getting us into the new year, hopefully allowing us to resume meeting in person, is a very good time frame.
Sorry, I needed to unmute. Sorry, Commissioner Hughes.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Commissioner Scott Barnes. So I am curious about if we have to have a suspension of the rules in order to have a public conversation. Is that a necessary step?
I think that's a really helpful question to ask. Director Odom, can you speak to that?
I'd yield to legal to see if you absolutely had to. You probably absolutely don't have to suspend the rule to have the conversation. I would caution, though, against not giving an impression that you're going to a dead end. I mean, I don't think you have to suspend the rule to have the discussion, but if you are not seriously considering the name change or entertaining it, why would you suspend the rule? It would be my question, and what kind of expectation that creates in the eyes of the public.
Okay. We do have Commissioner referral, and I see a hand raised from, sorry, not Commissioner, a council member. Councilmember Nancy Van Rees. Is this an appropriate time to bring discussion in from, okay. So I'd like to invite you to speak.
Thank you very much. I'm here not only as the chair of the Parks, Libraries, and Arts Committee, but also a member of the general public. And I know that there's been a lot of work done by the Minority Caucus and by others to generate discussion. And I feel like this committee may be, from observation, a bit confused on the legalities of the process, but I think that the process is absolutely necessary. I also am chiming in because there's going to be another request for the suspension of the rules for another project that we have under review by Metro Historic now. I think that this committee needs to be made aware that in 2020, there's going to be an overwhelming desire by the national community to make sure that if there are opportunities to recognize our African American history, that major steps are done to do that. I think that's why you're seeing more of that happening now, and how there's going to probably be more requests for it in the future. So the idea of having a suspension of the rules to even entertain the renaming of a park, I think is appropriate, because this is the committee that will then send it to the Parks Commission as a whole, and it'll be that body as a whole that then makes the decision as to whether or not this should be deferred or continued forward. And so I just hate seeing a logjam in committee because of confusion over the process. When I believe in my heart, knowing many of you, that you want to make sure you do it right if you're going to do it. And so I wanted just to chime in as the chair of Parks and Libraries, but also in giving in context that this is not going to be the first time that you have a request of this nature in front of you. It is absolutely irregardless of what has happened in the past. It's a new day. There's going to be more requests like this, and I'm wanting to make sure that you as a committee are aware that the process that you set forward now will move forward to the next request. And so just wanted to chime in on that. I'm feeling like the opportunity for community feedback has been laid forward, and I'm hoping to see this committee move it forward to the Parks Board for additional discussion.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And we were aware that there was going to be a name change coming from you, I think, was in the next month or so. So that's helpful context.
More than just me. It will not be everybody.
Of course. Commissioner Hughes.
Thank you. Council person Nancy Van Rees, Councilwoman Nancy Van Rees, thank you for that clarification. And you know, something that I'd love us to consider, and I personally think I might feel more comfortable with, is rather than suspending the rules, is actually taking the time to figure out is the naming of the parks, and I don't know if this is in the purview of the Parks Board, but what about changing the rules as opposed to suspending the rules? Because suspending makes it a special once, twice, case by case, sets a precedent. If we, once a park is named, it can never be renamed. That's a really long time. And I think that, rather than, I'd like to suggest rather than suspending, we think about, is that necessary rule to have? Would we want to put a time period on it? Or are there other ways that we could take care of the rule problem and then be able to entertain this kind of request? Because I think everybody wants to entertain this request. It's just, if we suspend, if we make it a special exception, then how can we say no to other special exceptions? Things like that. So just something that I'd love us to consider that, and happy to put that in the form of a motion if there's any, if anybody else wants to help think that.
Okay, we already do have a motion on the table. So we have a different motion on the table, but I think I'd like for Director Odom to speak to the origins of the naming policies, and because I had a little bit of an education of how we got to this place, and I think that would be helpful to just comment about.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe back in 2006, the then Parks Board was experiencing a large volume of requests for name changes. And so my understanding is that the then director, Mr. Roy Wilson, along with a contingent of Park Board members and staff, developed this policy just so that, you know, they would not be inundated and have to consider changing the names of parks that had already been named. And then I believe it was in 2015, the rule was amended, and a section was added to include, I think, an employee who had been employed with the parks or Metro for a certain period of time, a long period of time, or there was a substantial financial gift made to the parks. A park could be named after that person. So all that to say, I gather that the Parks Board has faced requests for naming, you know, quite a bit. So this is probably nothing new. I would defer to Mr. Anderson to give put some context around that, since he is our longest serving Parks Board member at this time.
No, I think you captured it. We've always been very careful not to change parks names. You know, we did correct the name, but you know, as we heard earlier, you know, it is a different time, and that's why I think we need to take our time to get to changing the way we think about this. So and I kind of just randomly picked 4 months because I was going to say 3 and I was going to say 6, and I just chose in the middle. So there was no really thought process behind it other than just taking a deep breath and thinking through this. But for my 11, 12 years on the Park Board, we have always been very careful to change names because there's such great history in our parks. And I think the names have always been well thought out. And, you know, just personally, I'm very concerned about starting to change names, but that doesn't mean we do it. So we won't do it. But so that's really all I have to say about it.
Okay, so I guess we have a motion and we have a second to delay for 4 months. I'm wondering if there is a middle ground to ask if there should be meetings, like subcommittee meetings that happen during that time, or maybe I should clarify. Is there any specific outcomes that need to happen during the delay period? And I'll ask that to Commissioner Anderson because you were the one who made the motion.
I would say I would like, and I think it's a good point, actually. I think we should have at least 2 subcommittee meetings about park policy, which includes the whole board, maybe twice between now and the end of that 4 months to discuss our policy. So we're all making a good decision and not just reacting to something. So 2 or 3, you know, spend 20, 30 minutes each, just so there's a thought process to this and it's just not reactionary. I think then we all feel more comfortable at the end of 4 months or 6 months or whatever it ends up being when we start, if we make any changes. So I think we should have a discussion about the policy.
Okay, so do you mind picking a timeline to just adjust your motion?
This is Sharon. I apologize for being tardy.
Yeah. Go ahead.
This is Sharon. Susanna.
Okay, yes, welcome.
Yeah, I'm sorry for being late. I just texted Michelle. I teach a class at 11:05, so when we added the committee meetings this week on top of the board meeting, it became a little bit challenging. So I guess I'm trying to understand the timeline, right? And I understand timelines are important. It's what I do for a living. I'm trying to figure out what it is we're trying to. And so, Georgia, we're trying to figure out whether, as a Parks Board, we actually have the authority to change the name.
No, I think we have a policy in place that I think we need to stick to unless we decide to change the policy.
Gotcha.
And I think we need to have a discussion on policy, and then have a process to get. If we're going to change it, let's change it. If we're not, let's don't. I mean, I'm not saying one way or another, but I think it's about policy, and our procedures and policies are in place for this reason, so we don't make quick decisions, because these are very big decisions we're making. So I'm more about the process right now, and so I can amend my motion, Susanna, to say, for the next 3 meetings, why don't we carve out 30 minutes and talk about pre-board meeting? We can talk about that policy, the naming policy.
Okay.
That gives people plenty of time to voice their opinion on what we should be doing on the policy.
Okay. So that's an amended motion. Commissioner Steele.
And those discussions would happen with the policy committee, or Commissioner Anderson, are you saying in this naming committee body? I think it goes to another
I think it should
committee.
Be policy committee. I think it should be policy committee, but I'll defer to you, Monique. What do you think, Monique? The whole board probably should discuss this. This is a big decision.
I think if you're thinking about the policy, it should be policy committee, and the policy committee is the entire board.
Right. So I think we should put it in the policy committee and then come back and discuss any name changes.
Okay. Okay.
And so I would just ask that the motion not be so stringent on when those meetings take place. Again, I'm not available prior to 12 o'clock. Well, again, this was it. We just started doing that this year, putting those in. So I just think we need to have the meetings. We need to discuss them in policy, but let's not be prescriptive in a motion about when the meetings take place.
That's fine. Whenever it's easier for everybody, it's better for everybody to be able to attend. Absolutely.
Understood.
So Chair Steele, if you want to call it right after the meeting, we just all stay on for 30 minutes, that's fine, or we can do it on a separate day.
Okay. So I have a motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Haynes.
Second.
Okay, and I do see some hands raised. I'm not sure if they're old, but Councilmember Van Rees, your hand is raised.
Thank you very much. Actually, didn't need to, I meant to take it down, but I appreciate this discussion and the valuable time of the committee and the board in their service to the city. I just want to make sure that these decisions are not being made without understanding the optics involved. And so I appreciate the discussion and yield to your wisdom at this point.
Thank you. Councilmember Hurd, your hand is raised.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I too appreciate the discussion. I am, but my guess my interest is the fact that the precedent has been set with the Cane Ridge Park, being that the name change has occurred before. And I know that it was deferred from the last meeting for there to be some discussion. And I know that Mr. Ewing was invited to attend this meeting in order to give historical perspective and context. So I would hate that he would miss his time and in being able to share in the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'd love to introduce historian David Ewing to give of this particular park. Is that appropriate, Director Odom? Is this okay time for that? Okay. David, can you unmute and give historic perspective of, let's see, I think we're having a hard time unmuting.
Okay, there we go. Commissioners, briefly, and Council Lady Van Reese and Hurt, it is a big honor to have a park for you. It's city resources sometimes, and sometimes private resources. And the history of this board, going back to, I'll just briefly talk about Frederick Douglass, an all-white and all-male Parks Board, took the honor that Mayor Hillary House had bestowed on an East Nashville park, naming it after the great African-American orator Frederick Douglass. They took his name off of it, and they changed the name to Douglass Park with one S, and he spelled his name with two S's. And so, as you all mentioned earlier, the board, with the support of Mayor Megan Barry and the resolution from the council, they voted to correct the name and restore the original name, Frederick Douglass, to the park. I do personally think that it is, of course, 100% in your purview to decide what names parks have. If you look back to the original intent of Hadley Park, for example, it is the first African-American park in the city park in the United States. And the same Mayor Hillary House, who has nothing named for him, who was mayor of Nashville for 21 years, not only gave us the original Hadley Park, but also Frederick Douglass Park and the first African-American Carnegie Library. He was also very instrumental in the founding of TSU, and the city of Nashville contributed to that. And so if you're looking on how to honor people and why, I think it's really important to look where the park was located, who the constituency of the park is, and there are so many people that I know personally that deserve a park or a school named after them that are great Nashvillians. And it always bugs me that we name things generically after a certain section of town or a location. Me personally, I think a good compromise to this naming issue is, if you don't want to offend a family or someone that originally got an honor in the past, you could look at parks that are not named specifically for an individual, like Public Square Park or East Park in Nashville. I don't see why it would make a big difference to change the names of either one of those, very similar to how the original placeholder of Jefferson Street Park. I know Council Lady Hurt has done a lot of legwork in the community, and given the attention of Congressman John Lewis, one of the Freedom Riders, Diane Nash, Rip Patton, and many others, the city where one of our most famous events happened, the lunch counter sit-ins and later the Freedom Rides, I think it's important to have a discussion how we want to honor this great legacy and teach people. Like I said, it's a huge honor to have a park named after you. And I know you get lobbied and there's all sorts of considerations, but I hope that you will find a way. When 100 years ago, white men decided who got parks named after them, and they were all white men mainly back then, that I hope that you find a way to, add to the rich history of the park system and honoring people. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Commissioner Steele, I see your hand.
Thank you so much, David, for being here. We appreciate you taking the time and for speaking into this conversation. Commissioner Scott Barnes, we are beyond our time, and I wanted to just bring that to our attention so that we could get to our Parks Board meeting. Just a note.
Good note. Okay. Well, this has been fruitful conversation. We do have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. So I'd like to, at this point, take a roll call vote. So let's see, Commissioner Anderson?
Approved.
Commissioner Gentry?
Approved.
Commissioner Haynes?
Approved.
Commissioner Hughes?
Approved.
Commissioner Steele?
Approved.
Okay, so it's, the motion carries. Thank you all. Thank you very much. We'll stay on for the Parks meeting.
Yes, I will just do a brief countdown for the park.